And yeah, I did. It's my epic poem, but the real name of it is The Love and Eyes of the Goddess, but it's also the epic poem. And it took great. It took me like 2 weeks maybe to write this, so it's pretty good. So forgive me if I mess up. A little nervous. So I know this one person that lives like a god, praised by many, but everybody know that he's flawed. He resigns up high in the sky and looks down at the chicks as they try to fly up in the air, but if you go too high, you will miss the sky and he won't say goodbye. All that's left with them is a heavenly scent of cigarettes and weed. That is all he feeding. Chicks weren't enough, so he collected a few girls nicknamed Aphrodisiac because of his lust. He messed with the head of the goddess of love, made him stand out like red blood on the dove. But of course he was hated by none, to him nothing was done, so he kept on fiending and bleeding through his lungs. Still floated on cloud 9 all the time till he shined. But one day I saw his face enjoying the race for his heart that was already falling apart. So I tried to mend it with my hands, using paper clips and rubber bands. I told him I could be his friend. He told me he'd teach me how to bend. I said, I don't understand. He said, don't worry about it, man. So we went on long walks, talked and talked, had some ice cream, interpreted each other's dreams. I told him I wasn't his girl, but I loved him. At the same time, he told me he felt smothered. I said, why? But he didn't reply. Walked away with my best friend and said, look, babe, this is the end. I told him that's a lie, but he didn't reply. Then my best friend texted me. She said, hey, he messed with me. I told her, forget you. She said, see you soon. I said, wait, before you betray me and play with my best friend, will you tell me why then? He said, too many questions and so little time. Then licked a tear off my cheek as I cried. I whispered in his ear, tell me your name, not the one that gave you fame. He brought me real close and unlike most, close enough to hear his heart, because he was afraid that his words would fall apart. Suddenly I felt his heart skip a beat as I heard him say something. It sounded like Ruby, Scooby, maybe even Beauty. Then he let me go and said, look, I gotta go. I said, wait, I don't even know your true name. He said, hey, I gotta play the game. But before I could say a word, he put his hand on my heart. I told you already, my words, they fall apart. But it's okay, did you feel that sharp pain? Everything then connected in my brain. All of a sudden, I ripped over my shirt, and what wasn't spoken was true. His name engraved in my heart, signed lover. Then he turned around and said he felt smothered. I realized this wouldn't work. If you mix love with lust, what is left in the middle? Sat there thinking while the cat played his fiddle. Until I had a random revelation, ended up running to the train station. There he was, standing there untouched. He said, look, I wasn't made for lust, and these words I speak you must trust. If you are who you try to hide, please don't lie, and beautifully reply. All of a sudden, silence filled the air. At that moment, I lost all my cares. I dropped my jacket, unzipped my cloak. Right there, he knew what wasn't spoke. He said, woman, you shine brighter than the sun. Aphrodite, you carry beauty like none. All of a sudden, I realized what I did and put on my jacket and cloak and hid. He said, wait, why do you hide? Because of who I am, I replied. If they know who I am, they would try to take advantage. And my love is not my advantage. He says, if you think that's what I'm trying to do, let me be honest with you. I was attracted to you from the start. That's why I was afraid my words would fall apart. You live in the heavens. You live in the heavens with the, I'm sorry. You live amongst the heavens and the stars. Do you know who I are? Do you know where I live? Past the silver lining on the way to cloud 9? That is not where a goddess should reside. Right there. You thought it would end with an amazing kiss, but what happened next was ridiculous. We got so close when we was breathing each other's air. But all of a sudden we heard, hey, what you doing down there? By the time we looked up, they came down. Calypso and Athena, what brings you to the ground? They said, do you know who he is? I said, yes. Well, they said, don't you remember him and his brothers messed with us? I said, I know, but he's a changed kid. I'm very sorry, but that's all I have. I'm very sorry. Wow.